The subtle evil that exists today is not removed by chasing it or hitting it with a broom. The subtle evil of today can only be consumed by a greater revelation of godliness. And so no one, regardless of their condition, moral condition, should hesitate to do something holy. We've all heard the story with all of its details, the tragic event in Poway, California, in the Chabad house. And so many people, mostly rabbis and shluchim, came out with a call to increase light, to increase goodness, random acts of goodness. It seems like a theme. We're not going to give in to the darkness. We have to bring more light into the world. It is absolutely correct, and it's absolutely true. And coming from the rabbi of the Chabad house, from Rabbi Goldstein, it is truly amazing. It's so impressive. It is so much of what a rabbi should be. But let's look at the background of all of this. Is it really true that if you increase light, you chase away darkness? A little bit of light removes a lot of darkness. Was this always the case? Isn't there an argument that says we have to fight the evil? Fight violence with violence? It's only a recent development. In fact, it's the Rebbe's innovation, that being that we are so close to the coming of Mashiach, that in our times, meaning after the war, after World War II, something shifted in the cosmic reality, in the cosmic condition, so that only a generation ago, fighting evil was the right approach. We have to stamp it out, we have to erase them, we have to defeat them. You got to be tough and you got to stand up. And even morally, in our own private lives, first you have to stop being bad. You got to do tshuva, you got to soften your character, you have to get rid of the chametz, of the arrogance and the selfishness and so on. And only then can you start to climb the ladder that stands on earth and reaches into heaven. When the Rebbe took over the mantle and the leadership of Chabad, he told us that something has shifted, and that today, in our generation, bring in the light and the darkness will be consumed by it. You don't fight the darkness anymore. Now we need light. Now in Hasidic terminology, the elevation of the world, the refinement of the world, the tikkun olam, happens in two ways. Either you remove the darkness and the evil, you fight evil wherever it exists, you destroy it, you crush it, and that brings additional light because you've become more receptive, you've become more sensitive, you've become more ready to absorb the godliness. But then there's also the effect from above, where godliness is revealed into the world and it consumes the evil. And the evil falls away because it can't compete with the light or with the goodness. This is called the action and the reaction. Usually when we make an effort to reduce the evil in the world, God reveals himself into the world to a greater extent, and then we have both effects. We weaken the unholiness by our own inspiration and effort, and then God increases his presence in the world, and the world is affected from above. We now understand the difference between a rabbi and a rebbe. Or as some say, a rebbe is a rabbi's rabbi. If you've heard Rabbi Goldstein speak recently, he is a rabbi, very impressive. And anyone in his congregation will tell you, this is a rabbi. An inspirer, a teacher, a role model, a real rabbi. And listen to what he says. He says he is inspired by the Rebbe. What is it that a rabbi needs a Rebbe for? If you want to know Jewish law, you study, you read it. You don't need a Rebbe for that. You want to know what Hasidus says? You need a Rebbe to tell you, where are we in the sweep of history? Where are we? How are we doing? Are we making any progress? And is there something we need to know about our times that is different and maybe unprecedented and not like previous times? Only a Rebbe knows this. Only someone who is in touch with cosmic shifts and cosmic realities can tell us where we're up to and what needs to happen next. So in the vast eternal plan that God has for the world, there are these inspired leaders who not only know what has been written and what has been said in the past, but also what's next on the agenda for our generation, for the new generation, for the next generation. And this we have to thank the Rebbe for. In practical terms, what it means is that in other times, in earlier times, you had to stop sinning before you can start doing mitzvahs. And that made perfect sense. It still makes perfect sense. How can you bring beautiful furniture into a house that hasn't been cleaned? How can you invite a special guest into a house that you haven't prepared? So yeah, prepare the house first, then bring God into the world. Even in Tehillim, in the Psalms, Sur meira v'aseh tov, turn away from evil and do good, in that order. But because we live in a special time, close to the coming of Mashiach, in the 7th generation, which is like the Shabbos, it's no longer necessary that you stop all evil before you can start doing good. In other words, the evil that exists in the world has been weakened. It has been softened through all the hard work and self-sacrifice of the previous generations. Now, the subtle evil that exists today is not removed by chasing it or hitting it with a broom. The subtle evil of today can only be consumed by a greater revelation of godliness. And so no one, regardless of their condition, moral condition, should hesitate to do something holy. You don't feel that you deserve? Oh, you don't. You don't feel qualified? You're not. But holiness is unconditional. You bring holiness into an unholy place, and the place will become holier. And that includes your own heart, your own mind, your own habits. Bring in the holiness and watch the evil fade. So all these rabbis who are saying we're going to fight this by having more light, by lighting Shabbos candles, by putting on tefillin, by doing favor for each other, it's correct. And it's exciting because it shows that we really are making historical progress in the rectification of the world, in the tikkun olam, and that there isn't really that much more that needs to be fixed before the world does become a truly godly place.
Partner with Rabbi Friedman. Visit itsgoodtoknow.org/support.